Greetings, America. I'm Walter Clapp. First, Happy New Year. I know many of you have never heard of me. That's because I've never run for political office before. Today, I'm announcing my campaign to run for the Republican primary against President Trump and presumably Mr. DeSantis. Now, you might ask, why did I pick today to announce? January 6th is a day of historic importance. Now, there are still facts yet to be uncovered about what exactly happened. And as of today, I can't say that I know one way or another exactly what happened. I wasn't there. What I do know is that something tremendous, a fracture in our nation, occurred. And as your president, I promise that I will do everything in my power to understand and relay the facts of what happened to the American people. Now, in addition to that, my platform has 7 points. First, to enforce Congress's mandate from the states to hold an Article 5 constitutional convention of the states. Article 5 provides for two methods of amending the Constitution. We've only ever amended via the method of Congress proposing amendments. We've never had a constitutional convention. Enough states have asked for one, yet Congress has failed to provide for one. As your president, I will ensure that Congress is encouraged, required to do so. Number two, I will work to drastically increase the size of the House of Representatives. This deals with the first proposed amendment to the Constitution. What should have been the First Amendment dealt with an algorithm of how many constituents per representative there would be in our lower house. Now, because of a mathematical impossibility, that amendment was never passed, and it sits out in the ether. I believe it is vitally important for us to drastically increase the size of the House of Representatives, as our founding fathers believed should be done. To do otherwise is to continue to live in a nation corrupted. It's unacceptable from my perspective. Now, many of my family members, when I told them that I was planning to run for president, said, "Why don't you run for Congress first?" And the reason is because every person that goes to the House is an agent of their party and not a leader of their party. They've got to do their time before they have the opportunity to lead. I've elected to run for president specifically for this reason, because I know the lower house and the Senate are captive. They're corrupted to a certain extent. Not every single member, not all the way, but enough. I went to law school in Washington, D.C. and spent time on the Hill. I saw it firsthand. I was there to try to fix our nation's electric grid. I realized that doing so from inside of Congress was unlikely to be successful. So I endeavored to do it privately as an entrepreneur. And my first patent was issued but a couple months ago on this topic. And that brings us to platform point number 3. I intend to allocate national defense spending to secure our electric grid, our nation's petroleum production and refining capabilities, our cyberspace, our airspace, our bridges, and our supply chains. Our electric grid is probably our nation's greatest vulnerability. It's a problem I've been working on personally for about the last 10 years. And the solutions, though not obvious, are simple. As your president, I will ensure that these solutions are implemented quickly so that if our nation's bulk electric system were to fail, we have a backup. Fourth, I promise as your president to secure our borders with advanced technology and to provide sensible paths to citizenship for people that want to be productive members of our American society, like every immigrant that came before them. My ancestors were immigrants, Every single one of you who's listening, either you were an immigrant or your ancestors were immigrants. We are a nation of immigrants. Okay? I'm happy to secure our borders. We need to do that specifically for my platform point number 5, which is to end human trafficking in America. Now, obviously, this happens internally, but much of it happens across our southern border and is tied with the quote-unquote war on drugs. Now, we must secure our borders. We must keep out the criminals. We must allow the people fleeing a war zone the opportunity to make a great America. That is no small task. Obviously, there are many conspiracy theories and hypotheses coming from all sectors of society about child trafficking. And I can't say that I know with any absolute certainty where the truth lies. Obviously, there's much to learn in this realm. And as your president, I will do everything in my power to learn it and to quash human trafficking. Number 6, I plan to utilize Bitcoin blockchain embedded Merkle tree hashes to audit databases of all future unclassified internal data of executive agencies under my control. That was quite a bit of word salad. Basically, I want to take databases, take a snapshot of them, and embed the snapshot, which is a truncated version of that database, using cryptography, and put it on the publicly available Bitcoin network. And what this will do, it will mean that if the database is in any way altered, that timestamp, that Merkle tree hash will change and we will know. So if there are rogue actors in our executive agencies, I will be able to identify them. Or at least I will be able to identify that they exist. Number 7, as your president, I will pledge to remind you, the American people, every day, every time I get up to speak, that the war that matters most is the one that's going on between each of our ears, up here. Ultimately, many people are frustrated with our country. I understand that. I also am frustrated with our country. Otherwise, I wouldn't take the risks to run for president. But also, each of you must turn internally, and you must accept and acknowledge that there are parts of you that are corrupted. There are parts of you that are imperfect. And though you may want to ask what your country can do for you, I will repeatedly return to you to ask what can you do for your country. I ask you to choose love over hate, good over evil, truth over untruth. I ask the Republican Party to stand for good, for truth, and yes, for love. At rock bottom, we must, as a party, have a love of truth. This must be our fundamental principle. Every American must be able to speak their truth without fear of government intrusion. As your president, I will ensure that our executive agencies do not trample upon the First Amendment of the United States of America.